What's going on, people? Welcome to the opposition preview as we look ahead to the game against Southampton on the weekend. I'm joined by Dan from the Saints View to discuss the game in more detail. Relegation battle for both sides. Of course, Southampton are struggling at the bottom of the table. So we're talking about what's gone wrong at Southampton and more. As always, we want to hear from you. So leave down your comments in the comment section down below and make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you do enjoy the content. Dan, what is going on? What is going on over there?
I
It's
mean,
it's
like,
it's
like,
it's, it's crazy.
yeah, I know. I mean, the whole relegation battle is absolutely nuts, to be honest with you, mate. But yeah, like we were just saying before we started recording, if I could pinpoint exactly where the problem lies for Southampton this year, I'd be a richer man. It's been a season like no other, really. I think for Southampton, but in the Premier League as well. I mean, during the international break, I was looking at that table. I mean, 9 teams in the relegation battle with 10 games to go is just absolutely nuts. Obviously, now it's gone down to 8, and we haven't been able to pick up a point in the 2 games since we've come back, and we're still bottom, 4 points off safety, which is achievable, but it's looking more difficult as the weeks go by. And yeah, another massive game on the weekend for us.
Yeah. At the start of the season, did they expect a struggle like this? For example, certain teams, you have a poor summer or there's problems that's been going on from the season before. I mean, you're 20th, 4 points from the drop, and it's looking very difficult for you guys right now. Of course, there's still a lot of games to be played, and you could stay up. But what's gone wrong this season? Like, where can you start?
I mean, to answer the first part of your question in terms of did I expect it? I mean, no, I didn't expect Southampton to be bottom of the league for as long as they have been. I mean, we've been in the relegation zone since November, and we haven't come out of it bottom for the majority of that. No, I didn't expect it. It was a big summer. It was a big summer for the club. So it was the first summer under the new ownership of Sport Republic, who took over January 2022, and they made it very, very clear that Ralph was still their man. He'd just overseen 250th place finishes. I mean, it was 2 seasons in a row where we'd started excellently and had a really poor, really poor end to then drop off into 15th. And a lot of people were calling for his head, to be honest with you. A lot of people were saying, he's been great for us, but now it's time to make a change. In the end, the ownership decided to add and make some adjustments to his coaching staff and actually back him in the transfer window. Spent near 100 million pounds, which is just absolutely mental for something, but on 10 players. So there are a few loans in there. There are a lot of youngsters. We've got the second youngest squad in the league, and the whole idea or the whole philosophy, I guess, of this new ownership structure was to buy young players, particularly at bigger sides who weren't playing but had the potential to go and play in the Premier League. Romeo Lavia, I think, is the best example of that. Obviously, a Manchester City youngster, a couple of first team appearances, but obviously at Man City, you're not going to break through as an 18-year-old. Came to us for 12 million, and he'll go be a superstar, and I'm sure we'll talk about him a bit later on. So it was a big risk, and obviously that risk hasn't paid off. And in the end, we've had 3 managers, 15 players, and yeah, the puzzle hasn't kind of worked, if that makes sense. The pieces haven't stuck together.
Yeah. When you're talking about bringing in younger players, that's the same approach that we've done at Palace with the likes of Elise, Eze. Maybe they're not straight away from the academy. I mean, these players are played in the championship, so it might be a bit different approach right there. But then again, you have to have a bit of experience. So when you did bring in these younger players, and maybe Ralph, you knew what Ralph could do with these players. Like, of course, no one's going to expect you to be 20th in the league come this point of the season because there's some quality names there. Looking at the decision to sack Ralph, was it the right one? I know hindsight is a great thing, but do you think at the time was it the right decision? Because you sack him and bring in Nathan Jones. What was that? You guys beat us with Nathan Jones anyway, so it didn't really make a difference. But what was that about?
Yeah, no, it was definitely the right time to sack Ralph. I mean, don't get me wrong, he was a brilliant servant. He was a great manager for us. I mean, 4 years as a Premier League manager nowadays is very hard to achieve that at one club. Yeah. He was very close to his 4-year anniversary. And I think the timing was pretty spot on. it's looked very likely that they were going to wait until the World Cup and do it, and then bring someone in, and then use that 6 weeks to obviously let them get to know the squad. But in the end, there were too many heavy defeats, and the board went for it. But I think everyone was so surprised. Firstly, how quickly they brought in a replacement, and secondly, that it was Nathan Jones they went for. Look, I said this at the time, and I'll still stick to it now. Obviously, like you say, hindsight is a wonderful thing. But based on our philosophy, in terms of some of the players we'd recruited, Nathan Jones fitted that philosophy. And that's only because he won Championship Manager of the Year last year and the job done at Luton. And also the fact that he'd come back to Luton and obviously improved them. He had that tough time at Stoke. And I think that's what everyone was focusing on. But on paper, if someone's just won Manager of the Year in the Championship, you've bought a load of players from the Championship, it's a no-brainer. So I think when everyone saw the name first link, why Nathan Jones?
Yeah.
Surely we've got a bit more ambition than this. But it kind of made sense. But I think as soon as he came through the door, it was he had a lot of people to convince. He had a lot of people to win over. His first game was at Liverpool. We lost 3-1, but looked quite good. And then he had the World Cup. And everyone thought, okay, we come back from this World Cup break. We've got a massive run of fixtures in terms of teams in and around us to play against. This is going to be a crunch set of 5, 6, 7, however many games it was. And we came back, and it's probably the worst I've seen Southampton in the Premier League. Like, we declined massively, and everyone was scratching their heads. Like, what's he done over those 6 weeks? What's he done for those 6 weeks? Nottingham Forest, how poor they've been away from home. They beat us 1-0 at St Mary's. Wolves we lost to. The only big results really were beating Everton away when they were absolutely hopeless, and somehow coming out of the bag with a 2-0 win at home to Man City in the Cup, and beating you guys in the FA Cup, which, to be honest, I don't think anyone would have cared if we won or not, because it was the FA Cup and we just wanted to focus on the league. But the thing is, right, he came in, said the right things. I think everyone wanted to back him. It was a new manager. It was exciting. But it wasn't just the fact that he'd somehow got this team to play in a worse way than Ralph, because trust me, Ralph was struggling with these players. It was also the arrogance.
I saw it as well. I was so confused about it.
Honestly, if you look back, if people are watching this and forgot, type in on YouTube Nathan Jones Brentford. His post basically saying that he compromised when coming to Southampton. He's compromised on the way in which he manages, and he won't do that anymore. When we just lost 3-0 at Brentford. Honestly. So it just wasn't the right fit. And then now we're on Ruben Selles, who was the assistant manager who came in to work under Ralph in the summer. So he's been great. It's hard because he's going to have the relegation on his CV. But to come in, I think he's 39, no experience as a manager, and he's had to come in as a Premier League manager. It's an opportunity. I think he's done quite well with. We've definitely improved. That's a no-brainer. But they got that Nathan Jones appointment wrong, and that's what's going to cost us, I think, come the end of the season.
So I want to talk about Ruben Selles, but before we do you think you're going to stay up? Of course, both teams on here fighting for relegation. Thankfully, we managed to pick up a point, 3 points against Leeds on the weekend, which was a fantastic result, especially in the second half to some of the football that we played. But for you, as a Southampton fan, being realistic, of course, you want to have hope. Everyone does. That's what football is all about, having hope, whether your team stay up or push up the table, top 10, top 4, top 6, depending on what team you support. But do you think you will stay up?
No, I don't think we will. And that's not because we're too far adrift. 4 points off safety with 8 games to go is incredibly achievable and overturnable. The problem we've got is every big game this season, bar maybe 2 or 3, we've not shown up. Anytime we've played the teams in and around us, we've not shown up. Off the top of my head, West Ham the other week. I mean, they went and lost 5-1 at home to Newcastle after beating us 1-0. And it wasn't just the fact we lost to West Ham. It was the fact that we showed absolutely zero intent of scoring a goal. That's been our issue all season. scoring goals. It's the lowest amount of goals at this point in the Premier League season we've ever scored in our history. 23 goals in 30 games. It's never been done.
That's crazy.
So that's where the problems lie. And again, this is another one of those games against one of those sides in and around us, and they're running out. We've got you guys, we've got Bournemouth, and then Forest. And I think that's it. I think that's it. Unless I'm forgetting another one, but those are three games against sides in this battle, this crazy battle. And we've let these teams come to St. Mary's and roll us over, or we've gone to theirs and struggled. Don't get me wrong, against bigger sides, we've actually tended to do all right. And it wouldn't surprise me if we go to Arsenal next week and get a point, but. It's another one of those games where we've not shown up in, and something drastic has to change for us to turn our fortunes around.
Yeah. And so in terms of your strengths and weaknesses, of course, you're talking about struggling to score goals, and that's the main weakness. But what are your strengths, if there's any? At this point, it's hard to find.
Yeah,
it's probably going to be hard to find some, especially when you're sitting 20th in the league.
I would say
there anything that's working for you? You've got some quality players there.
Yeah, I think and it's been the case for a few seasons now. I think our midfield is easily the strength of the team. Obviously, Ward-Prowse comes into that massively. I think having Romeo Lavia this year has been, it's been a blessing in what's been a really poor season, because I strongly believe that kid's going to go on and do big things in the game. He's absolutely remarkable for a 19-year-old. And then we also recruited. I can't even remember, Charlie Alcaraz from some Argentinian club, and he's been great as well. And I think he'd stay on in the Championship. So our midfield's looking good. And like I say, defense-wise, we've improved under Ruben Sellers. I mean, we kept 3 clean sheets in the first handful of games, and we'd only kept 1 in over 20 before. So he's definitely improved us defensively. But it's how much we want to sacrifice our attacking abilities to make sure that we keep the team that we're facing out of the at the other end of the pitch. So it's hard. It's a hard one to really pick out. I think our best players are our midfielders. That's facts.
You got some quality midfield. That's the thing. It's not like you got terrible players. You got some good players in that squad.
Yeah, I mean, look, don't get me wrong. It's been a really competitive season as well, and I think you look at our squad. I mean, it is mad that the league leaders have the youngest squad in the league, and then you go down to the second youngest squad and they're bottom. I think this year of experience will be massive for these players. And if we were to stay up, I think next year you'd see a really good Southampton side, but obviously that's not going to be the case, or at least that's how I see it happening. It's just a lack of experience, and a lack of a goal scorer. And I said it when we recruited all these youngsters back in the summer. They look great, but you need some experience in there. The likes of Connor Cody was available, Ben Mee were available. They're 2 defenders I thought would really benefit this Southampton side and these younger players. James Ward-Prowse is brilliant, but for me, he's never been captain material.
How come?
So
he seems quite vocal. Well, against Zaha, let me just say that.
Yeah, I know.
Against Zaha,
I know he's very vocal against Zaha. It always feels like everyone relies on him. He's got too much pressure. We rely on him too much, and I just don't. He leads by example. Don't get me wrong, but I just feel that we've had captains in the past, especially when we were coming through the divisions. For example, Jose Font, Kelvin David. Real leaders. Players that fans would run through a brick wall for, let alone players running through a brick wall for managers. That really identify. And look, James Ward-Prowse will go down as a club legend regardless of whether he stays or not. But I just have never seen him as a captain based on the captains we've had in the past. And I don't know, maybe that's a hot take now, but I think a lot of fans do agree with me on that. And it's a hard one. When you've got the second youngest squad in the league, you've got to look for leaders and people to set example, and you don't really have that.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I think he's a quality player on the pitch, but that surprises me as a neutral. Of course, you watch Southampton more, but You would think that Ward-Prowse, would step up to the plate. But some players, they're just good players on the pitch. But as captain material, as you said, not everyone could do that job. But for you, as a Southampton fan, what have you made of Palace this season as well? We got rid of a manager, Patrick Vieira, brought in Roy Hodgson. He's been here for 2 games and it's been pretty solid. But in terms of Palace's squad and where we are, have you been surprised?
Yeah, I'm surprised about the winless streak. I'm surprised how long it took you guys to win a game in 2023 post World Cup. Look, Palace have got a great squad. I've said that for a while. It's just I feel like if I was a Palace fan, I'd be frustrated because I'd feel as though the squad at Palace's disposal, that is, should be capable of more.
Yeah.
And for me, I'll be honest, when I saw the Roy Hodgson appointment, I thought, God, if I was a Palace fan again, I'd be so frustrated with that because it just feels like a backward step. I think I would have been frustrated that Vieira. Yeah. I think I would have been frustrated that the Vieira thing didn't work out because I do think there was glimpses there last season that it could have gone well, and obviously it hasn't gone to plan. But to then go back to your previous manager to take him out of retirement, I think I would have been frustrated. But hey, at the end of the day, it looks like he's got 2 wins now that look like that might keep you up. So,
exactly.
You're laughing.
We're scoring goals.
Scoring
5-1 at Leeds. It's crazy. And we're talking about, likes of Eze, who wasn't really performing as much, recently under Vieira. He's stepping up to play. And at least, as you said, some of these players, we've got some decent players, but they haven't really stepped up to the plate this season. It's been a toxic season, but it's been a frustrating season. I mean, the expectations that we had from last season going into the season, it wasn't met. Of course, Vieira's gone, but regardless of, Vieira going or not, he set the fundamentals. Even Roy Hodgson has said it in the first game when we beat Leicester. And after the Leeds game, you mentioned as well, Patrick Vieira plays a part. It's not just, all of a sudden things have changed tactically and this and that. Roy Hodgson, I think, has come in, giving these players confidence, and that's helped them massively because we've got some talented players there. But Vieira, in terms of footballing abilities, in terms of possession, he set the fundamentals there. So, in the long term, if we do end up being successful, I think Vieira has started this new era of Palace, and we'll see what happens in the future. But yeah, I mean, hopefully, this is another game for Palace fans that we're looking at to win. Of course, you're looking at this game to win as well. Both teams ideally need wins. And, we've had some difficult run of games, as you mentioned, winning streak. And that was due to us playing some top quality opposition. But now we got teams like, the Leeds, the Leicesters, the Southamptons, teams that are around us. We're looking to pick up more points and have some momentum going. But for you, Dan, how do you see this game going in terms of your score predictions?
I mean, I couldn't tell you, mate. I think we'll start well. I think we have to start well. We can't afford not to. You know what? I can see similarities between the game at St Mary's kind of this time of year, wasn't it? The last season, where Southampton started really well in the first half, took the lead, and then kind of threw it away in the second half late on. Obviously, touch wood, that doesn't happen again, but I could see something like that. It's really hard for me to predict victories at the moment. I think it completely depends on the Crystal Palace side that turns up, because we absolutely have to. Whether, and I'm sure this won't be the case, but whether Palace kind of think, okay, we beat Leeds 5-1, we beat Leicester the week before that, kind of headed towards the beach slightly, whether that's going to be the case. But for us, it's absolutely must win. And it's hard to predict victories right now. So I'm going to say Southampton will take the lead in the first half. Palace will come back in the second, and it will finish 1-1, which isn't obviously what I want, but that's how I'm seeing it right now.
Yeah, look, against Leeds, I was saying I would be happy with a draw because it was away from home at Ellen Road, and in the second half we turned up. But the funny thing about Palace is, as you mentioned, since Roy's come in the Leicester game, we went 1-0 down, won that game 2-1. In the Leeds game, we went 1-0 down, won that game 5-1. So in both of our games since Roy Hodgson's come in, we've actually conceded the first goal. But then after the first goal conceded, it seemed like we all just wake up all of a sudden. So your prediction in terms of 1-0, that could potentially happen like that. But for me, look, with all due respect, the Southampton is a struggling side. As you said, even as a fan, you're thinking about, you don't think you're going to survive. So pretty sure the players, of course, they're probably low on confidence as well. I want us to go out there and, have another decent performance, hopefully take the lead. I don't think it's going to be easy by any means, but I'm going to go for, I want to say 1-0 Palace. You're struggling to score goals, and we've been okay defensively. But I think it could be a tight game. I think 1-0, it could go 1-0, and I wouldn't be too disappointed with that because I don't think we're going to win literally all our games at the end of the season.
I think 1-0 is a good shout. What I will say is we've lost 9 games 1-0 this season, and if that doesn't tell you the story, if that doesn't tell you the story of our season, I don't really know what else. You know, defensively just can't score.
So I could, we just need a fast start. That's the thing.
What I'll say is I don't think it'll be a classic. I think you've got a home side incredibly nervous. I mean, they'll know, regardless of what the manager's been saying. They'll know if they don't win this one, it's close to lights out, really. Because I've been saying this all week. We've got you guys, Arsenal away, and then Bournemouth at home within the space of a week and a half. It has to be 6 points at least. If it's not 6 points, I can't see how they're going to get themselves out of it.
Yeah, especially with the confidence. Like, you still have games coming up, but it's the confidence aspect. If you lose against us, lose against Bournemouth, I mean, the players must be thinking like, that's it. Do you get it? And you as a fan is thinking something similar as well. So it's going to be a massive game for both teams. I'll see how Palace react after the Leeds game. That's 2 wins in a row. Hopefully, the players. The thing I'm all right about is I don't think we're going to be complacent. Because for the first time, I feel like the players are excited about the next game. It's not the case of, let's just stay up. I think they're excited to see the rest of the season. We scored, 5 goals in the last game. Even against Leicester, we played some decent football. Had like 30 shots, which is crazy. For Roy Hodgson's side, we had 30 shots in the game before that. So it seemed like we're excited and hungry for goals. And I feel like they're looking forward to the next game rather than saying, we won that game. Now let's relax a bit. So it should be an interesting game. But let us know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And also make sure to check out the Saints View for all the latest Southampton content. That's it from me and Dan. And until next time, up the Palace.